relatively new friend out in Wisconsin, former prosecutor Jennifer Doro, now a criminal defense attorney. And I'll ask you all three, but I'll start with you, Jennifer. The length of deliberations, can we really tell anything from that? You know, there's the old myth.
Put on, I would feel confident because he did put on a very good case. So I would feel confident, and you want to keep that strong and confident demeanor for your client. You don't want your client to view you as, you know, the case is gone bad or not in my favor. So although, like you said, there's a high percentage of cases that come back with a conviction, you know, you still have to remain confident. You still have to trust in the fact that you've put on the best case that you could have with the evidence presented. And the reason the jury is taking so long is because they're carefully considering all the evidence in the case. We had a lot of evidence in this case, medical evidence, toxicology, things that the jurors, a layperson, really don't understand, so they have to really decipher it, you know, to come up with a verdict.
And Jean, let me jump back out.
When he made the statement and he kind of put the puzzle together at the end because they didn't know whether she was smothered or what had transpired. And when he came up with that information, and like Jan Boyce says, even if you believe he's a convict, that, you know, he's set out for his own interest, it kind of fit the pieces that he said fit the puzzle. Yeah. It kind of gave them the end of the story.
It was that last piece you're always looking for.
Exactly.
My son actually loves mammogram, things that sane people do. You might also do if you were suicidal. It's not necessarily a linear progression to suicide.
Exactly, exactly. And like Jennifer was saying, I was back here screaming, saying, yeah, you're a sane person. So that's why you would think about the kids and the family and everything. But, you know, with what's been shown here, her mental state was deteriorating, but that didn't stop her from doing her everyday affairs, like you said.
Dragging herself through them.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes you don't even know that a person is suicidal until they actually commit suicide, and you say, wow, you know, yeah, I just saw them, or they would just continue in their regular routine.
Yeah, we just lost someone in our... I guess the larger question for you is, when you put a new juror after 2.5 days of deliberations on a jury, isn't that a little bit of a legal fiction that they're really going to start all over again? Doesn't that new juror just come in and pick up where the old juror left off? And is that unfair to the defendant?
Yes, I believe that the new juror just comes in and picks up, you know, and he's brought up to speed with what's going on in the whole deliberation and what they have been deliberating about. Is it fair to the defendant? As a defense attorney, of course, I would say no. I would want that the jury that was initially started deliberating, I would want them there, you know, to bring a juror in after 2 days of deliberation and try to keep them up to speed. You know, that might be a little bit prejudicial for my client. So as a defense attorney, I don't think I would like that at all.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it does happen in lengthy trials. And Judge Schrader, both of them are rather hard to believe.
Yeah.
So if both are equally hard to believe, then you go for the defense, reasonable doubt.
Yes, exactly. And it's just so suspect, you know, and I think that Albie pointed that out several times. She had opportunities to tell other people. If she was such in fear of her life, you know, she had the brothers, her family is so close. Why didn't she let this be known? I mean, she told the teacher, she thinks he's trying to kill her. But if she had grave fear of her life, get out of there, okay, and take the kids out of there, you know, and you have to make it more believable. You have to make someone really believe you that this is going on. You have to broadcast it to everyone.
Now, David Allen Bard, hey, Mirna, are you, like me, sick of O.J. Simpson?
Yes, I'm sick of O.J. Simpson, and I know so many people say, well, you know what, he doesn't have the money anyway. You know, they'll never get this $33.5 million, but like David said, there was a judgment entered in California. Because you moved to another state, that doesn't vacate or give the court, O.J. rights to say, the court no longer has jurisdiction over me. No, no way. The courts originally had jurisdiction over you when the judgment was entered. We're just renewing it now.
Yeah, well, what little money he's got, he's sure.
They're not going to be able to win a case against these teachers. So when they become of age or they're in their adulthood, now they're better able to articulate what happened, and they're willing to articulate what happened. So yeah, I think that, you know, the teachers should be put on notice, like, you know, you can't do this. guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I mean, that's the standard that we have to prove in a criminal case. So if there's no statute of limitations for this type of case...
People cannot defend themselves.
Yes, they can defend themselves. They can. You have murder cases.
Too much time
Murder cases happen, cold cases where an accused is brought before the trial. Murder is the only exception to the rule of statute of limitations. And this one should be an exception to the rule as well, because children are defenseless.
This is the father of her 18-month-old child, and she had to come to grips with what he just told her, you know, and whether or not, you know what, should I go to the police against my husband, or should I keep quiet about this whole situation? What should I do? And I think as a wife, you know, even if the shoe is on the other foot, as a husband, as a spouse in general, you kind of have to sit back and it first has to digest what you just heard and what just happened. I mean, this is very serious. And then you have to decide, what are you going to do? What side of the law are you going to be on? So I don't think it's unusual for her that she waited, you know, that time period.
Joe, there's now an...
Wanted to see whether or not any blood may have dripped or seeped in between the floorboards.
Sure, yeah.
And they wanted to see whether or not maybe his DNA or the murderer's DNA is in that apartment. So they probably want to do a full sweep all over again and try to find something that will link the murderer to the apartment, and if they get DNA, and maybe they can test the father to see whether or not the DNA in the apartment linked to him to the murder.
And perhaps if it matches up.
Usually when you have a murder in an apartment, or the police, they tend to lock that apartment up or that area up. So if they need to come back there to look for additional evidence, that they have the opportunity to do so. And like you said, they might...
Well, that's what we hope. The defense hopes that too, because if someone is charged, you don't want to contaminate a crime scene.
Exactly. And they have gathered some evidence in the past. For them coming back to the apartment again, looking for blood evidence, looking between the boards. I mean, I agree with what the gentleman said, that someone may have tipped them off to say, well, you know what, this might have happened, you know. Well, Drew Peterson has said from the beginning, he has maintained from the beginning that his wife ran off with another man, that she has had extramarital affairs, and that has not done this, and he has not murdered her. He has nothing to do with it. So now a text message saying what it actually said. It's
like a little whoop whoop.
Yeah, exactly, which shows that, you know, there was maybe some type of extramarital affair to kind of hold weight to his story.
Joe, is this a good idea, or is this just Drew Peterson again, you know, saying...
How can this possibly be legal? Let's ask an attorney. Mirna White, how can this be legal?
Legal because it's been used out of the country, and it's been under the radar in the U.S. It's flown under the radar for far too long, and I think now that the FDA has to step in and get involved, because this drug, it is a drug, and it's causing harm to our children. We need to protect our children.
Is there any sort of effort, any sort of legislation?
Yes, well, right now in several states, there are proposals to make the drug illegal and to ban the drug. In about 6 to 8 states, it's actually illegal.